threat.
This could get messy.
No shit.
You thought you were gonna be some great saviors?
The Thunderbolts movie represents one of the most intriguing and unconventional directions ever taken in the superhero genre, shifting the focus away from traditional heroic figures and instead placing morally complex, damaged, and unpredictable characters at the center of the story. Rather than celebrating perfect heroes in shining armor, this film explores what happens when the world's safety is entrusted to individuals who have spent most of their lives operating in the shadows, making questionable choices, and living with the consequences of their past. This tonal shift immediately sets the movie apart from many earlier entries in the superhero landscape, promising a darker, more grounded, and psychologically layered narrative that leans into themes of redemption, manipulation, and trust. The story unfolds in a world that has grown increasingly unstable after a series of global crises and the gradual disappearance or absence of many of the world's most powerful protectors. Governments and intelligence agencies, feeling vulnerable and exposed, begin searching for alternative solutions to maintain order and counter emerging threats. Instead of assembling another team of shining heroes, the decision is made to form a covert group made up of individuals who have already proven themselves in combat, but whose reputations are far from heroic. These figures are not chosen because they are morally superior, but because they are expendable, controllable, and capable of operating in morally gray situations where traditional heroes might hesitate. At the center of the film is a manipulative yet highly intelligent government strategist, who sees people less as individuals and more as tools that can be deployed to achieve specific outcomes. Her approach to leadership is cold and calculated, driven by the belief that the world cannot always be protected through idealism, and that sometimes peace is maintained through actions that never see the light of day. She carefully selects each member of the team, not just for their abilities, but also for their psychological vulnerabilities, knowing that people with troubled pasts can be easier to control if they are offered a chance at redemption or a reduction of their past penalties. The team itself is a volatile mix of personalities and skill sets, creating immediate tension as these individuals are forced into close proximity despite their conflicting ideologies and personal grudges. Some of them have crossed paths before under violent circumstances, while others carry deep mistrust toward any authority figure trying to control them. Their first interactions are filled with sarcasm, hostility, and a constant sense that any one of them could betray the others if given the opportunity. This tension becomes one of the film's strongest narrative engines, turning even quiet moments into suspenseful exchanges where every line of dialogue feels like a potential spark for conflict. One of the most compelling elements of the story is how it treats each character not simply as a fighter with unique abilities, but as a person struggling with guilt, regret, or unresolved trauma. Flashbacks and personal conversations reveal the emotional scars they carry, showing how years of violence and manipulation have shaped their identities. Some of them genuinely want a second chance at doing something meaningful, while others are motivated by self-preservation or the promise of personal gain. This mix of motivations creates a team dynamic that is constantly on the verge of collapse, yet paradoxically makes them effective, because they understand the brutal realities of the world better than most heroes ever had to. Their first mission together is designed to test not only their combat effectiveness, but also their willingness to follow orders without question. The operation is covert, dangerous, and morally ambiguous, forcing them to make decisions that blur the line between right and wrong. As they infiltrate hostile territory and confront a powerful adversary, their lack of trust in each other becomes as much of a threat as the enemy they are facing. Miscommunication, hesitation, and personal vendettas nearly derail the mission, but their shared survival instincts ultimately push them to cooperate, at least temporarily. As the narrative progresses, the film begins to peel back layers of secrecy surrounding the organization that created the team. The characters gradually realize that they are not being told the full truth about their missions or the larger objectives behind them. This growing suspicion creates a shift in the group's internal dynamics, as members who once saw each other as enemies begin to question, whether they are all being manipulated by the same powerful forces. The realization that they are disposable assets rather than valued operatives becomes a turning point, planting the seeds of rebellion and forcing them to reconsider where their loyalties truly lie. The movie also introduces a formidable antagonist whose goals are rooted in a twisted sense of justice and revenge. Unlike typical villains driven purely by greed or chaos, this character believes that the world's current systems are fundamentally broken and that drastic measures are required to reset the balance of power. Their ideology mirrors, in some unsettling ways, the logic used by the government agency controlling the Thunderbolts, creating a thematic parallel that forces the audience to question whether there is truly a clear line separating heroes, villains, and those who operate in between. Action sequences in the film are crafted to highlight the raw, unpolished nature of the team. Instead of perfectly coordinated superhero battles, fights often feel chaotic and desperate, with characters improvising, making mistakes, and occasionally endangering each other in the heat of combat. This approach adds a layer of realism and tension, as victories are never guaranteed and injuries have lasting consequences. The choreography emphasizes brutality and close-quarters combat, reinforcing the idea that these individuals are soldiers and assassins rather than traditional costumed heroes. Beyond the physical battles, the film places significant emphasis on psychological warfare and manipulation. Characters are frequently forced into situations where they must confront their own past actions or make impossible choices that test their moral boundaries. The strategist overseeing them uses their personal histories as leverage, reminding them that their freedom and futures are conditional upon their obedience. This dynamic creates an ongoing internal conflict within the team, as they struggle to balance their desire for redemption with the knowledge that they are being exploited. Midway through the story, a critical mission goes disastrously wrong, resulting in civilian casualties and the apparent death or capture of one of the team members. This event serves as a wake-up call, shattering any illusions that their handlers have their best interests at heart. The remaining members begin to openly question their orders, leading to heated confrontations and the first real cracks in the command structure. For some, this is the moment they begin to consider turning against the very system that assembled them. While others remain conflicted, torn between fear of punishment and the hope that completing their assignments might eventually grant them the clean slate they were promised. As the final act approaches, secrets that had been carefully hidden start to surface, revealing the true scope of the conspiracy they have been entangled in. The team learns that their missions were not solely about neutralizing threats, but also about covering up mistakes, silencing witnesses, and advancing a hidden agenda designed to consolidate power. This revelation transforms the narrative from a straightforward covert operations story into a larger tale about control, propaganda, and the sacrifices made in the name of national security. The climax brings the Thunderbolts face to face with both their external enemy and the system that has been manipulating them from the start. Forced to make a defining choice, they must decide whether to continue acting as obedient weapons or to risk everything by fighting for their own autonomy and a chance to redefine who they are. The confrontation is not just physical but deeply emotional, as each character's decision reflects their personal journey and the lessons they have learned since being forced together. Visually, the film embraces a darker and more grounded aesthetic compared to brighter superhero entries. The color palette leans heavily into muted tones, shadows, and stark lighting contrasts, reinforcing the morally ambiguous world these characters inhabit. Urban environments, abandoned facilities, and war-torn landscapes dominate the setting, giving the story a gritty, almost espionage thriller feel that differentiates it from more fantastical superhero adventures. The performances of the cast play a crucial role in bringing authenticity to these complex characters. Rather than portraying them as one-dimensional anti-heroes, the actors emphasize vulnerability, anger, and moments of quiet reflection, allowing the audience to connect with individuals who might otherwise be difficult to sympathize with. Small gestures, tense silences, and emotionally charged confrontations add depth to the relationships within the team. making their gradual evolution from reluctant allies to something resembling a family feel earned rather than forced. Music and sound design further enhance the film's tone, using heavy, pulsating scores during action scenes and more subdued, haunting melodies during introspective moments. The contrast between loud, chaotic battles and eerie, quiet sequences creates a rhythm that keeps the audience emotionally engaged while constantly reminding them that danger is never far away. Subtle audio cues such